4 Israeli soldiers are injured, one of them severely, after a military jeep is hit by an explosive device on the Israeli-Syrian border. Representatives of Iran and world powers reconvene in Vienna for talks over Tehran's nuclear program, hoping to transform the interim deal into a permanent solution. Russia versus the Western world continues. A Ukraine soldier is killed in Crimea, and Russian President Vladimir Putin signs a treaty officially recognizing the territory as part of the Russian Federation. Welcome back to the news today. This is the Daily Debate. The most recent Gallup poll showed the approval rating of United States President Barack Obama has dropped to 40%. This could have a direct effect on the midterm elections, but concerning Obama's foreign policy, it seems in the Middle East, the views are even harsher. A failure to act decisively in the Syrian crisis, on the Iran nuclear deal, and in Ukraine are all part of the ongoing criticism towards the president. So, does the administration's foreign policy project weakness? Does it? And with me tonight is Hillel Schenker, Chair Democrat Abroad Israel. Good evening.
Good evening, Lucy.
And Marc Zell, Chair of Republicans Abroad Israel. Good evening.
Good evening, Lucy. Good to be here.
Good to have you again. So, we cannot say that he had the best foreign policy that he could have.
First of all, you mentioned the word failure. I don't see any failure in this Middle Eastern policy. On the contrary, the overwhelming majority of the American public did not want to attack Syria. There's nothing to be gained by that, and the chemical weapons are being removed diplomatically. On Iran, with the nuclear question, there are talks, they're reconvening, it says today in Vienna, and hopefully they're moving towards a resolution which will prevent Iran from having nuclear weapons. And finally, here we are going towards the end of the 9-month period, thanks to Secretary of State John Kerry's determination, with Obama's backing, to try to bring the Israelis and Palestinians together in both of their best interests. I don't see failure.
You know, it's surprising that you're talking about Syria not as a failure, because I think that in 10 years people will call it a massacre, and people will ask the world, where have you been? And people will ask the United States, you had the possibility to do something and you didn't do anything. You stood aside.
To do what? What do you think they should have done? Capture Syria the way they went into Iraq? And what they did in Iraq was what Bush and the Republicans did was to create an Iranian ally. Yeah, they remove the Sunni domination. They have a Shiite domination. You don't have to just act. You have to act wisely. And I think that what Obama did is acted very wisely.
Well, what Obama has done for this 5 or almost 6 years now as president is lead from behind. And that means in the Middle East, basically retrenchment. No failure, Hillel. It's been one failure after the next, as far as anybody that has two pairs of, in my case, 2 pairs of eyes can see. Egypt, you didn't mention that one, Lucy. After the United States worked for decades to get the Russians out of Egypt, Obama handed over Egypt to the Russians on a silver platter. Syria, a massacre, where American dalliance, failure to act in a timely manner, turned the whole tables on the Syrian opposition. So now who's opposing Assad in Syria is the Al-Qaeda Islamic radicals. Turkey, Iran. It's a success when the parties are going back to meet again in Vienna on an agreement that everybody and his mother agrees, including the administration, has been an utter failure. Congress, including the Democratic Senate, is now seriously again debating a sanctions legislation against Iran because the president's program has failed. Look at the Ukraine, look at North Korea, look at China, look at Venezuela, look at the entire planet what the world has seen, and this is the greatest tragedy of the Obama administration.
Mark,
is
are you
just-
asking?
Let me just say that.
Excuse me, Hillel.
Yeah.
I didn't interrupt you.
No, but you're
What
talking much longer than I did.
Well, because I have a lot longer list to mention.
Wait till I answer you.
When the world looks, when you look at the world today, you see an American that's perceived as weak, perceived as impotent, and that's why people like Putin in Crimea and so on are acting the way they're acting. When there's a political vacuum, the political
Or
actors
people might say that
go.
the Americans are peaceful human beings, that they don't want to get into the war business yet again, and they
fact
want to try
is-
to solve it in a different way.
Yes, the fact is that the Republicans are trigger happy. It's as if they're all members of the National Rifle Association and they want to go out and be the cop of the world. The American people no longer want that. It's no longer workable, feasible in the world. What we need is active diplomacy backed by power, and this is what Obama is doing, Obama and Secretary of State Kerry. And the fact is that the majority of the American people voted for Obama twice against Republicans who are advocating what Marc Zell
American
is saying
people,
here.
Hillel, voted for the president based on their perception of his domestic policies. In fact, when it comes to foreign policy, the American people don't have much to say about it.
But
and
they
that's
were not
exactly
happy-
why the American people needs leadership at a time of
They
chaos
were
in
not
world
happy
affairs.
being embroiled in Iraq with all of the American soldiers there or in Afghanistan. They were very happy that Obama said he was going to arrange to withdraw from those
You're
battlefronts.
forgetting, Hillel, what Obama said in the 2012 and 2008 elections about Afghanistan. He said, we'll get out of Iraq so that we can fight in Afghanistan.
And
what he's
also
done,
withdraw from Afghanistan.
And what he has done is he has weakened the United States in Afghanistan. He has pulled out prematurely in Iraq, and the result is exactly as you say,
you know-
Iraq is falling apart and becoming an Iranian
Iraq is
an
falling
ally.
apart primarily because of the Republican policy. It was George Bush who was responsible for what happened in Iraq.
You guys,
The
on
fact
that,
that
on
you
your
had
side
an
of the
office
aisle,
in
Hillel,
Baghdad doesn't
on
mean
your
that you are really an
Hillel,
expert on it.
You've got to grow up. You've been in power for 6 years. You can't go back every time and blame the Republicans and blame Bush. It's your watch. These are your policies, and the fact that America is weak and perceived as weak in the world today is your fault.
Obama or America are perceived as weak by people who are conservatives who want to see all problems resolved by military force.
Forget about what
the
we
world
think
does
in
not
Washington.
work that way right now.
Putin sees you as weak. The Iranian leadership is laughing at the Americans.
On the contrary, because of the sanctions, that is why the Iranians elected somebody who is more moderate and who was ready to enter into a dialogue. And there is a good chance that there's going to be a resolution.
Let's give Lucy a chance.
You know, I want to look, because Saudi Arabia is looking at the United States in a different way than it used to look at it a few years ago. Israel, we just heard General Bogie Alon saying today that if the United States is not going to act against Iran, Israel will have to act by itself. The situation that countries who rely on the United States find themselves without a back to have a backup for them, it's actually undermining what is happening here in the Middle East.
I don't want to get into Israeli politics, but I can quote many senior people in the security establishment who will say that the American support for the Israeli security is unprecedented, and you know that as well. Ehud Barak said that. Netanyahu has said that. The fact is that there will, in my estimation, neither by Israel or by the United States, be a military solution to the Iranian nuclear program. We can assume that there will be a diplomatic solution to the benefit of everyone.
You can assume there's going to be a diplomatic solution?
Well, they were also working
when all
at
the
it.
facts are staring you in the face and saying not.
I see different facts than you do.
Well, that's certainly the case, but I'm the one with the glasses. Apparently, you need another pair. I'll tell you, Hillel, when you look around the world today, any place, and I'm not talking about Washington conservatives or Republicans. I'm talking about people out there, people that were looking to Obama for that new leadership for which he won the Nobel Prize before he even became president. those people are now very disappointed because what they see is a United States that lacks a backbone. Lucy put it right. These folks around the world who are not conservatives, by the way, Hillel, who are national leaders, who are seeing American retrenchment as creating a political vacuum, which creates the possibility for chaos and recklessness on the part of adventuresome leaders of state. And that's what you're seeing in the Ukraine.
I can
and
assure
that's what
you,
you're seeing in Turkey and all over the Middle East, and the Obama policy of vis-a-vis Israel.
Egypt. Even Egypt, we can put Egypt on the
Egypt,
table.
of course, I started off with Egypt, but in Israel, Hillel,
yes.
Whatever you may say about the strategic cooperation, despite the fact that the Obama administration was cutting the Israeli budget by $500 million, the Israeli situation exemplifies what I'm talking about. Here's the United States' only viable ally in the entire region, and what is the United States doing? Coming over here, investing all of that political capital at trip after trip of John Kerry and the president who deliberately snubbed Netanyahu in Washington in an effort to push Israel into a deal at precisely the time when Israel shouldn't be making it.
They are trying to help both the Israelis and Palestinians to resolve the conflict for the sake of both peoples, both the Israelis and the Palestinians. And the fact is, I can assure you that almost all of the world leaders breathed a sigh of relief to say goodbye to George Bush, and they were extremely happy that neither John McCain nor Mitt Romney were elected and that Obama was elected. And I can assure you that in 2016, excuse me, looking towards the future in 2016,
did you follow what happened with Abbas in Washington yesterday?
All of the trends say that
Hillel,
a Democratic president
will
be elected in 2016.
Mark, let me try to take again this side of the table and try to think. Maybe Barack Obama is saying to himself, okay, I failed the foreign policy at the first term that I had, the first 4 years. Now I have 4 more years. I have enough domestic problems. I need to deal with the inside problems with the United States. The United States spend too many times outside and all its efforts on what is happening in the foreign affair. Maybe it's time for me to be remembered in domestically and not internationally.
Well, Lucy, that's great. So what's he doing with the Israeli-Palestinian conflict? I mean, his Secretary of State has been here how many? 12 times in the past year, all attempting to achieve a deal which everybody on the ground that has 2 eyes in their heads understands will not happen. We just saw Abbas in Washington yesterday. He made it clear that the Palestinians aren't moving, and despite the American pressure and despite the American pressure on Israel. Yes, the United States has problems, but the United States is the world's only superpower. And it doesn't mean, Hillel, that the United States has to play policeman over the globe, but the United States has to be a player. It can't do, as this president has sought to do from the beginning, try to lead from behind. It doesn't work. It hasn't worked in Libya, hasn't worked anywhere.
Excuse me, America has been leading together with allies. The difference between the Obama policy and the Bush policy is that Bush went unilaterally and then got into a mess in Iraq and in Afghanistan. And Obama's policy is to work together with allies. That's why what you have with Iran is the P5+1, the 5 permanent members of the Security Council, together with Germany, working on getting a deal with the Iranians to prevent them from having nuclear weapons. And Kerry I have tremendous admiration for the efforts that he is making to try to produce a solution here, at least to move the process forward, which I must say is in the deepest interest of the Israeli people.
You know, I'm trying to right now trying to remember the speech that he gave in Egypt when he stood in front of all the students in 2009. And maybe all this, you can speak big words, you can talk cliches, you can speak, to the human beings of the world, but if you don't understand the culture, and if you speak about a culture and you don't understand the culture, maybe your position is not to try and negotiate what is happening in the Middle East.
No, I mean Egypt.
No,
It was one catastrophe after the next. I mean, he made the speech in Cairo that weakened Mubarak. That led to Mubarak's downfall. Who replaced him? The Muslim Brotherhood. Then they supported the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood started knocking off everybody, including the Coptic Christians. And then finally, the military took them out of a pair.
Mark, I would like to remind you that it was the Republicans who pushed the Israelis to encourage to have the Palestinian elections, which brought Hamas to power against the best instincts of both the Israelis and of the Fatah people.
That was a terrible blunder. I'm a Republican, and I'll say it.
And you will say that the Republicans made a terrible blunder.
Hillel, excuse me.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that we agree that the Republicans have made mistakes.
Hillel, the Republicans do make mistakes.
Yes.
But you know what's important? When your president, the President of the United States, makes a mistake,
What mistake?
I've listed about
Gentlemen.
20 of them.
Okay,
You have to be honest
Gentlemen, thank you
with
very
yourself
much
and
for
with the
this.
public.
Thank you very much for this. I'm going to
see
say
what you were
just
saying
goodbye
as
for 2
mistakes.
minutes. We're going out for a small break. Gentlemen, thank you very much
Okay.
for this conversation and for this good debate. And we're going out for a 2 minutes break, and then we will be back with I-24 News, one-on-one. Don't go anywhere. The news today, one-on-one.